Going into tonight's game, Neil Warnock said they were going to take inspiration from Tiger Woods. Well, his side certainly were the Masters this evening. Incidentally, you can see match highlights straight off this programme at 11 o'clock. But how has that win affected the leaderboard? Just look at the table right now. Huge game. Huge game. Still a 2-point advantage, game in hand, but they are right on their tails. I'll start with you first of all, Liam. Now, I know it's a difficult night for you. Many of your ex-teammates in that dressing room, you were at the club, so you're feeling for them. But they made 5 changes. They were absolutely desperate to change things after that thrashing at the weekend. But they never really got going, did they?
No, they started off brightly, and you've got to give Neil Warnock credit. And his Cardiff, and Morrison was outstanding at back. Yes, he gets the goal from a set play, but he defended his box superbly well. With likes of Duffy and Dunk going into the box, with Glenn Murray in the box, he's headed everything, along with Akule Manga. They were outstanding today, Cardiff. But from Brighton's point of view, we saw that game as you win that and you're safe. 8 points with 4 games to go with a game in hand. And I'm so disappointed for everybody involved at the club because it was a huge result that didn't go our way. But in saying that, we're still in our hands. We're still 2 points ahead. We've got a huge game against Wolves. And even though Neil Warnock's done a fantastic job to keep Cardiff fighting, I'd much rather be in our shoes going into the last 4 games than Cardiff's.
Do you think Brighton looked tonight as though they were lacking composure? After the initial... When they didn't get the breakthrough early on, it's as though the nerves, the jitters got to them. Yeah,
they started on the front foot. They started ever so well. Solly March looked really lively, had a few half chances, and I thought, watching it, yeah, Brighton might go on and take the 3 points. But that's one... I've worked under Neil Warnock. I know his football teams. He'll have that never say die attitude. He'll be saying to his team before in the change room, this is a massive game for us. Everyone's writing us off. Everyone, the media people, even some of probably our own fans are writing us off. But if we go into this game with togetherness in this dressing room, we'll get the 3 points. And that's what they do. Liam's right. Morrison was outstanding at the back. Usually Brighton are a threat from set pieces with Duffy and Dunk, but he headed everything and also got the crucial second goal. What
would be more devastating for the Brighton camp? The defeat or the manner of the defeat?
I think the defeat. I think performance goes out of the window when you're fighting for survival. It's about getting the win. It's not about how you do it. It wasn't the prettiest of games today. It was never going to be. And it's about momentum. And I think in the first part of that first half, Brighton had all the momentum. Then Nathaniel Mendez-Laing cuts inside, whips a great goal in the top corner, and it takes the wind out of your sails. When you start well and when you're down there and you're on a poor run of results, whatever team you are, you're naturally as a player going to lack confidence. So when something like that goes against you, it's even harder to then go again. But I've got no doubt that's a strong dressing room with some strong leaders in that dressing room, and they all go to Wolves and they need to give absolutely everything. I've got no doubt, I've got so much confidence in them that they'll go and do it, because now I thought that Saturday was a wake-up call for everyone at the club. This is a huge wake-up call. And by the way, there's always one team that gets dragged in, but there's always one team that gets a result out of nowhere to get them out of trouble. And I'd have no doubts that they'll go to Wolves, hoping it's us on Saturday.
The formation change tonight, did it help, hinder, or was it irrelevant?
No, I think it helped to begin with. I think having Pascal Gross back is huge. I think he's the most creative player in our squad. His stats in terms of assists and goals are incredible. He's right at the top of the charts last season for the whole Premier League. Now, we've missed him for a huge part of the season.
Which is why, sorry to interrupt you, which is why they changed formation in the first place, wasn't it?
Exactly. We lost Pascal, and all of a sudden we don't have that natural number 10 that can come in within our squad, so we changed the shape. But when you're a team in Brighton's position, this is only our second season in the Premier League, you need your best players fit. Jose Izquierdo as well, massive part of our wide threat with his pace and his directness. We've lost him for huge parts of the season. And when you're losing your most important attacking weapons, it's very difficult for any team in that bottom 10 to really go on a run of results. And Pascal's going to be huge now for the rest of the season.
So, Liam, what about, you signed a lot of players on Brighton. What would you say about the recruitment? I'm not trying to put you on the spot here or anything, but some of the players that have come in, Nacardi and players like that, I don't think they've been good enough, in my opinion. And having worked under Chris Hughton, I know the type of players that he likes in his dressing room and in his team. And they haven't delivered. I think they've been too reliant on Glenn Murray this season. And you've got to realise, Glenn Murray's getting older and he's still producing week in, week out. So it's so difficult. I know Chris Hughton's probably under pressure. Watching it, you can hear the Brighton fans, they're booing him. And that's very unsurprising because I think he's done a terrific job. And everyone loves Chris Hughton. He's a lovely guy, but there's going to be a bit of pressure on him now.
I tell you what's interesting is you speak about about teams that go up, it's the second season is the most difficult season. If you can get over that second season, you've got a huge chance of sustaining yourself in the Premier League for a long time. Because what happens, the first year you go up, you get that momentum. You keep that core group, the confidence of winning games, winning's a habit. And normally the teams that go up are on a great run at the start of the first season. That second season is so difficult in terms of recruitment because yes, you have to build on your squad. Yes, you want to add players, but you need to keep the core of that squad, that unity, that togetherness, that momentum at the same time. And it's really difficult. You know, we lost a lot of key players, maybe not even on the pitch. Steve Sidwell, Uwe Hunnemeyer didn't play much, was a huge part in the dressing room. So keeping that culture is so important. And every club in the second season, it's more difficult to get those home wins, to get those points. That excitement's not as much there as it is in the first season. That whole newness of being in the Premier League. And that's why it's so difficult for us at the moment at Brighton.
If you're a player in that dressing room, obviously you've all got to look at yourselves and you're part of it. But how big a test is this now of Chris Hughton's management? How does he lift that dressing room? How does he get something going?
Yeah, Chris Hughton has to lift that dressing room, but he can do that. As I say, he's man manager. But if you look at the list of games that are coming up, Wolves away, Tottenham away.
Tottenham's the game in hand.
Yeah, Tottenham's the game in hand, but it's a difficult game. Again, Tottenham are still going to be exactly, and they're still going to be challenging to try and make it into the top four. You've got Newcastle at home, which I think that one might be the game where Brighton. I still feel Brighton only need 3 points and they'll be safe. But it's where their points are going. Arsenal still challenging from the top four, and that game against Man City might decide the title. Man City might be still going. So there's a lot of... I think you need leaders. Liam said it. You need big leaders. Chris can say as much as he wants, but there's other leaders in that dressing room, like the Duffys and the Dunks of these world. Yeah. They need to galvanise that squad and get it togetherness.
But they've got no momentum right now. That's 3 on the spin they've lost. The worry for Brighton and Brighton fans is where realistically, where can you get points? Wolves are a very, very good side at home. Very good home.
Yeah. But again, like I've said, sometimes results get pulled out of the bag, and now it's a huge test. Clint's completely right. Character. You need characters, and I've got no doubt. I know the players in that dressing room, they'll be hurting tonight. It's not for the lack of effort or lack of trying. It's a lack of confidence at the moment. And there's really, really good individuals that have been part of that journey that Brighton have been on the last 3 years, like Bruno, huge influence dressing room, Glenn Murray, Dale Stevens, Duffy, Dunk, Matty Ryan, they're leaders. And now that it's going to be a true test, not just for Chris Hughton, but for every single player in that dressing room, whether they're playing, whether they're not playing, to come together and make sure they're in this league next season.
I mean, they're entitled to, but the crowd booing, what effect's that going to have on both the manager and the players?
Yeah, it's difficult, but the fans do pay their hard-earned money. So if they think they're not, I'm not saying no player on the pitch goes onto the pitch and you're not trying. You are trying, but we watched the game. Towards the end, you can see the players have no confidence whatsoever. There's 5-yard passes going astray. Dale Stevens, who I think is one of Brighton's best midfielders, making passes, tried to pass the ball out to Bruno, just goes out play. That's a confidence thing. So obviously there's a confidence issue around the Brighton players. But when you're not winning football matches, it has a knock-on effect. And it can go on and on with other players not wanting the ball. But no player hides. And you do need your fans to get behind you. But it comes a time where they're looking at Chris Hughton saying, what style of play are we going to play? Are we going to try and play out from the back? Are we going to get it forward straight away? And sometimes you have to give the crowd a lift. And tonight, I think after the first 5 minutes, they did give them a lift. But as soon as you go down, you know what fans like. They can turn just like that.
What support will Chris get from within the club as well? Because he was in a similar position with Norwich and they panicked with 5 games to go. Still went down. What do you think the people behind the scenes will be saying to Chris now?
They'll be supporting him. I've got no doubts, because that's the whole strength of what Brighton have been built on in the last few years, of togetherness, and not just in the dressing room or in the coaching staff. The board, a massive part of that. And Tony Bloom is someone who's very patient. I don't think in his time as chairman he's actually sacked a manager. We had Sami Hyypiä before Chris came in. We're in a relegation zone in the Championship, still didn't sack him, because the club is a long-term process-thinking club. So, yes, there's a lot of pressure on staying up this year, but the actual outlook for the club long-term is still very positive. They just really need to make sure that the short-term is right, and the best way to do that is to have the support that Chris has had throughout his tenure at the club.
It's just how they turn it, the pressure. It's not just the team going down. Of course, no player wants. There's people at the training ground. There's jobs on the line. Everybody. So those players will be feeling it every single day, as will other teams down there as well.
They will be feeling it, and that's what we were saying earlier. They need to get together. I think when I've been in situations where we've been in relegation, you need to stay together as a group. You can't be going into your little groups and talking about it. You have to sit together and talk about it together and see how you're going to get out of the slump that you're in. And they are in a massive slump. I think their last result win they had is when we were watching the Brighton game together, me and Liam, and it was Crystal Palace, and it was a tremendous result for them against Crystal Palace. And then we both said at the time we thought they would be comfortable, and now we're talking nearly a month down the line, and they're in massive trouble. But you've got to back Chris Hughton. I know fans. We're not talking about Chris Hughton leaving or losing his job, because I think he's a terrific manager. But obviously the players, I wouldn't say the players have let him down. They're just not getting the results. But one result, as Liam said, could turn, and then I think Brighton will be safe. I
mean, it was a devastating blow tonight, but realistically, given, I think since he's been there in 2017, his net spend is £10 million. Yeah, so he's always going to be there or thereabouts. It's whether or not he can just turn the magic and get out of it this season.
Yep. Hope so.
But of course, the other side of the coin is a jubilant Neil Warnock. Let's hear what he had to say after tonight's win.
Like I say, we're alive and kicking, really. We've made it interesting, especially for Sky, for Sunday. It's better than us being relegated, isn't it? So it's going to be a good game on Sunday with a full house, and then we've got, 3 or 4 games, haven't we, all together? And we've got to do what we can, best we can.
You've played for him.
He's a character.
I can see you chuckle. Why are you chuckling?
Because he's a character. That is the man. The way he speaks and stuff like that on Sunday is a big game against Liverpool. It will be a big game at home for them. Obviously, they'll be desperate to get the 3 points. Cardiff needs them, and they know Liverpool will need the 3 points. But on the back of this result this evening, they should be going there full of confidence. The Mendez-Laing goal was a superb finish, the way he's cut inside and bending. And you can see players like playing for Neil Warnock. When I played under him, but when I first met him, I didn't like the man. I didn't like him. He came into the train. I didn't like how he was on the training ground. But for man management and personally how he was for me, telling me what kind of runs to make into the box and stuff like that, he was brilliant. He said, Clinton, you need to work harder as a striker. You don't work hard enough. All you want to do is score goals. And if you're not scoring goals, you don't do nothing else for the team. So I got my head down, worked hard with him. Yeah. And that's what he gives you. And that's what he gives to probably all those Cardiff players in that dressing room. He makes you feel 10 feet tall.
Because of his huge personality, sometimes, perhaps, does he not get the credit? I mean, sometimes his football isn't the prettiest. But tonight, were Cardiff not absolutely excellent value for their win?
They were.
Full of composure and pretty much in control the whole night.
It's amazing when you feel like you've got nothing to lose, how that affects you in terms of confidence. It was a nothing-to-lose game for them today because everyone's written them off from the start of the season. That's not just last chance saloon, that's stand at the door by the edge. And they've rung the bell. But that's a real test of character. That's a real test of character. And one thing we say about Neil Warnock's teams is they've always had character. They've always had determination. We spoke about this time last year, no one at this point even said they were going to get promoted. Yep. They shouldn't have been promoted with the budget that they were on, with where he picked them up from, because they were struggling before he came in, and he's turned that whole club around. But it's not just there he's done it throughout his career, and he deserves as much credit as any manager at the moment, because he's doing that. You look at Fulham, they spent £100 million. They're already relegated. Huddersfield do great last year, this year don't. He's still in there with a fighting chance, and that sums up his whole managerial career.
Well, let's have a look at their remaining fixtures and see where you think they may be able to pick up some points. It starts this weekend. Tough one. They might be at home, but tough one. Tough.
But you look at Fulham away, they're already relegated. I know they've got nothing to play for. Probably Fulham players will be looking to try and impress the new manager for next season.
Picked up their first win at the weekend
against Everton, so it was a good result. So it will be a difficult, but Cardiff need the 3 points. It's a massive. And obviously Palace at home, one of my old teams. Palace won't go there and it won't be. It won't be an easy game. Palace won't go to Cardiff. It will be a difficult game. And then obviously Man United away, that would be a massive game because they're still trying to get into the top 4 as well, especially after tonight's result.
So based on what you've seen there, how many points would you think that they're going to pick up?
A difficult one.
I'd say 4.
Yeah, I'd probably say 4 as well. I'd say 4.
Liverpool is just so good. Fulham, Palace, between those two, I can see them at best getting... Yes, they could win both, but 4 points...
Fulham just got their first win under Scott Parker, so they've got something going.
They have got something going, but what I would say about Fulham is they've been poor at defending set pieces all season and direct play. So Neil Warnock will be getting into his place and put the ball in the box, long throws from Gunnarsson. That's what they're made, and he will see that as a really winnable game. And then Palace at home, when you know you've got Man United away after that, I can see them realistically getting points, but I can see Brighton definitely doing enough to stay up. Not that I'm having to say that because I work for Brighton, I love Chris Hugh and I love the club. I think Brighton is still in a stronger position, and they have to remember that going into the last games.
Is it just these two we're talking about? When you look at the bottom of the table, as far as you're concerned, Southampton, Newcastle, they're all fine as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, they're all fine. I think they've got enough points. Southampton are still there. You could see 3 points, but I think the way they're playing at the minute, and yeah, the new manager's gone in there and done a terrific job. I think it is between them two, Brighton and Cardiff. The result today was huge. Even if Brighton had got a point today, I think Brighton would have been safe. But it's because Cardiff have got the 3 points and it's momentum. When you're winning football matches, it brings confidence into the team. Now, Cardiff, they will fancy their chances at home against Liverpool to cause an upset at Cardiff Stadium, you know, with a great atmosphere. It's a free hit. It's a free hit. Anything can happen in that game. But you look at Brighton, and the worrying thing about Brighton is they're not winning football matches at the moment, and that is the most worrying thing.
Tell you what, as well, goal difference is key. Goal difference is key. 2 points, but if Brighton get a point and Cardiff win, it's still 12 goals better off. So you've got that. It comes into it massively in a relegation battle. So yes, for Cardiff's fantastic performance today, I still think it's Brighton's to lose in terms of the way they go about it for the next few games.
Do you worry though when you try and assess fixtures where the teams where they can pick up points, either side, is when they're playing against teams? There's very few teams that have got nothing to play for. Yeah, but obviously, there's pride, and I certainly wouldn't insult the integrity of a club or a manager like Roy Hodgson. But the likes of Crystal Palace, how motivated are they?
Yeah,
they're safe.
No, it's a natural question to ask. But my view on it is, yes, you have winnable games and chances that you play Liverpool at home. For me, when I was a young player, all I wanted to do was play at Premier League. I wanted to test myself against the best, which means beat the best. So you have to go out and try and win every game you can. So sometimes it's dangerous to say, right, that's a winnable game. OK, if we get a point here, we'll be OK. Now, both teams need to say, let's go and win every game. Let's try and win every single game that we can and get ourselves out of it, rather than rely on the other side not doing what they need to do. You need to rely on yourself and go out. If we go to Wolves on Saturday, go and win that game. Cardiff say the same thing. We've got Liverpool at home. We need to go and win that game and have a real fighting spirit between now and the end of the season, because you've seen it so many times. Clubs that are in that relegation dogfight beat a top club out of nowhere, because all of a sudden it's almost like a cup tie, FA Cup tie atmosphere. That's what you need to generate now. So it's going to be fascinating.
Jeff, Palace will be motivated. I speak to a lot of the players. They are motivated. Don't get it wrong. Brighton is a rival. It is a rival. So obviously most Palace fans would want Brighton to go down, but the Palace players, they'll go onto that pitch wanting to prove a point, because the higher you finish out in the Premier League, it's the more money for the football club. So Palace will want to go onto at Cardiff and try and get a result. No, the fans won't be, but I think when players go onto the pitch, you have to cross that line and try and get the 3 points. You're playing for your professionals, and you're playing for your futures. There'll be some players.
I'm just asking the question: is it human nature though, when you don't have to? Can you play at your maximum level when the result doesn't really change a lot?
Well, me personally, when I went on the football pitch, I always wanted to win and be the best player I could be on the pitch.
That's you,
but that's what I think. But do you think
in other players?
Of course, I see it in other players.
So it's a possibility.
Yeah, I see it in other players where you could say maybe some are on the beach already, but I don't think that. I don't see that in Palace. I've been to a lot of their games, and when they go into that pitch, you can say the result on the weekend against Man City was a bit of.
That's why you need to do it yourself.
Exactly.
You need to do it yourself.
It has to come
and
with
not rely
inside.
on other clubs performing or not performing. You need to earn your right to either stay in the Premier League or win a league title. You need to do it yourself.
Yeah.
OK, before we finish with Brighton and Cardiff, I'll ask you first of all, Clinton, more than the 3 points, what has that given Cardiff tonight?
It's giving them hope. It's giving them confidence going into the weekend. As we said, we look at the games that Cardiff have got left. They'll be thinking we can get something and we can survive. I'm telling you, before the game, if Cardiff only got a point, I think they would have gone back into that dressing room deflated, and Brighton would have been full of confidence. And me personally, I think Cardiff, that would have been them relegated. I just think as a group of players going back into that dressing room with only a point, they would have been proper deflated. Now going back with the 3 points back to Cardiff, they'll be full of confidence coming on the weekend. So they'll think they've got a great chance of staying up now.
And the flip side of that is, what does that result do to the Brighton players?
It's a test. It's a challenge, and yes, you can look at it in a negative way, but now it's a real test of that dressing room, because we've had 3 years of pretty much success throughout, and this is the first real time where people's characters are, do you want the ball? Are you willing to be brave enough to take the ball under pressure? Comes into it. So now that's the way I'd frame it. It's a challenge to everybody at that football club. It's okay when things are going well. Now what are you made of when things are going against you? Can you go away to Wolves and dig out a performance and show what you're about?